What is going on, Sales Dev Squad community? As you can see, I'm in the beautiful remote city of San Francisco from my background here with the wonderful Miss Nikki Ivey today, who is going to be a great guest today on another episode of the Sales Dev Squad podcast. Kind of a special theme and premise for you guys today. Obviously, the state of sales development, state of the world right now is kind of under what you might call a crisis, but through all the negativity and through what's going on and the uncertainty, I feel like we have a lot of good vibes coming your way and a lot of positivity and a lot of things that we want to share with you. So have the wonderful Miss Nikki Ivey who is joining us today. Nikki, thanks so much for being a great guest here and for hopping on. How are you today? Where are you calling from? And just how have you been?
Three questions. Kind of the same question twice, but it's okay. I am well today. I'm calling from, look, it never leaves you. Cold call speak never leaves you. No, I'm not calling from. I am joining you from Jacksonville, Florida, where I am lived since about July. It's beautiful here, even under these circumstances. I'm surrounded by palm trees and exotic flowers, and there's actually a pond in my backyard that has live gators in it. So, wow. I can't complain about most of the important stuff, right? Some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, I got complaints on me, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it. I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. I know I've been wanting to get you on here for quite some time, so I definitely feel like this is a really good topic and really good timing to kind of kickstart this. But for any SDR out there that was let go, unfortunately, due to COVID or is just struggling to kind of get themselves back on track, just wanted you to kind of have the floor here to share your experiences and any tips that you have for just anyone out there who was impacted at all by COVID-19 in their roles.
Yeah, I'm one of those people impacted by what's going on. I guess most of us are to varying degrees. So the first thing I just want to say, as far as whether you were in a job search and then stuff just dried up once this stuff hit, or you're in a job search as a result of a layoff, I think one of the things that a lot of us don't give ourselves space to do is just feel bad, feel the negative feelings that you have about the situation for, I guess that's going to vary from one person to the next. I might need a week personally, but for some time frame that you're comfortable with before you throw yourself back into trying to find something. That is a step I try not to skip, just because when I have skipped it and I've seen it happen to other folks as well, then it just becomes this pattern, and you become dependent way too much on your title or even your status as being employed versus unemployed for happiness and fulfillment, which is a longer conversation. But step one, I'd say, if you were in a job search and that's gotten more difficult, or if you're in a job search as a result, give yourself time to feel feelings about this. Don't let anybody tell you that you just got to get right back out there. Even if, you're in a situation like I am where paychecks matter. Still, it's worth it. Even if you can take 24 hours, 3 days, whatever it is, to acknowledge your feelings about the situation.
Absolutely. And I guess, it's just kind of a weird timing for sure. I can feel it. I'm sure you can feel it. Like what are some positives that maybe someone can take out of, unfortunately being laid off, or, just for whatever reason, obviously things happen. Like what are some ways that, SDRs out there can kind of shed this and turn this into more of like a positive light?
So what happened overnight is that, and I was listening to Amy Volas talk about this morning, right, is that we went from, a candidate's market to an employer's market overnight. And so, it can be difficult to find the positives, but what's happened for me is it freed me up, encouraged me, pushed me, all those things, to start really looking at what I want to fill my days with, right? More than what I want my title to be, more than how much money I want to make now, to develop skills we never thought we had time for, and to really let ourselves dream again about what we can do to fill our days. And so that's what I've been doing. These projects that I have, they're passion projects. They're not things I'm making any money off of, or really even now really getting a lot of recognition off of. It's just about, letting myself get excited about, how I'm able to fill my days now, and what I really want to, be when I grow up, so to speak.
Really appreciate that. And, coming from trying to put myself in your shoes, like when I was let go, like a year and a half ago, it really just kind of put me in a place where I can kind of think about things a lot differently. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create the Sales Dev Squad podcast, was to, because I had that time to think about like what was out there and what I felt like could be a great resource. And then from there, it turned into something great. So I feel like definitely during these challenges, it's a really great opportunity to kind of think about, where you want to be, and set yourself up, and really gives you time to work on a lot of great projects, and just kind of change your perspective on a lot of different things. So although it's like a negative at its core, and, not the best thing, I really do think it gives you an opportunity to kind of think about things a lot differently, and work on things that you might not think that you even wanted to do before. Just wanted to see what have you been doing to keep busy? Like what kind of projects are you working on? Would love to just hear like what the Miss Ivy's working on.
The Nikki Ivey. I don't know her. No. I started with journaling, and I told my kids to do this too. And I know that's kind of boring. But I was like, look, this is, every single day during this time is content, opportunity. And so I was like, first of all, I'm gonna do that, and then that'll be a project in and of itself, right? Is just collecting, creating content from this experience day to day that I can then turn into something that someone someday may find of value. But other than that, there's three major things I'm working on. One of them is, it's not officially, it'll be launched by the time this comes out. So act like, and never mind. Anyway, okay, so SDR Defenders. It's me,
Nice.
and yeah, it's myself and three other folks. I'm gonna keep it under wraps for now, but myself and three other folks from organizations in the B2B tech and sales space, and it's exactly like what it sounds like. We are advocating for SDRs from every angle, right? Whether it comes to compensation, where they can find jobs, tips obviously for how to practice and do the job itself. And then some fun stuff as well. We got, there's going to be podcasts because, as you know, I happen to be a fan of those as well. And just lots of content from folks who have been in their shoes, are still in their shoes, and things like that. And one of my favorite things that we're going to do on SDR Defenders, besides what I've mentioned here, is a segment called SDR Stars, where we are going, or just DR Stars, but where we're going to spotlight an SDR from our
Very
networks
cool.
and give them that exposure on this channel, as a guest on the podcast, and let them give tips and talk about what's working for them. That's probably the part of that project that I'm most excited about. And so the second one is currently that you're a member of the BDR Breakthrough group on LinkedIn. That group is moving to everyone's favorite sales social platform, Bravado. Yeah. So, so BDR Breakthrough will be on Bravado here coming soon as
Oh wow,
well.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and that one's going to have a sort of social for sales video series, 10-part video series that folks can just binge on, where it's exactly what it sounds like. If you're a salesperson, particularly a prospecting salesperson or SDR, I'm going to make little how-to videos on everything from how to SEO optimize your profile to begin with, and then on like how to drive people to it. And then even beyond LinkedIn and things like that. So, because I've had some really fun, cool experiences over social. So there's that one, the Bravado group. And then the third one is 108 tips for sales success from sales stars. Scott Ingram mistook me for a sales star on, on LinkedIn, and I somehow wound up in this ebook / webinar that's coming up. So for links to all that stuff, because I didn't bring them with me, links to all that stuff, just hit me up on LinkedIn. But that's how I've been filling my days. I say that to say this. I am busy. Just again, doing how do I want to fill my days and what makes me feel like I'm helping, and that's really how I'm getting through this. That, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention another thing that's getting me through are these happy hours. I heart salespeople, and we are just coming together on these. I've been on the one with Scott Leese and Justin
Morgan
Welch.
Ingram.
And I've been on, so Scott Leese and Justin Welch, and then Morgan Ingram and James Bowden, and both of them are so fun. And I just love that. Even the ones I haven't been able to attend, I love what they're doing for sales culture and for the sales community, because as you know, that's something super important to me. So that's the other thing that I've been kind of up to during this time, making friends.
That's awesome. Staying busy, getting things going for the SDRs to get back into it. I love it.
Yeah. And that's all you can do. I was watching Frozen 2 last night, and there is this quote it's a troll. I'm quoting a troll. That's where we are in America today. Welcome to the new normal. Anyway, but this troll, and he goes, when one can see no future, one must simply do the next right thing. And I immediately tweeted this, and then Scott Leese liked the tweet, which is like how the measure by which I gauge if something I've done is successful.
There you go.
He's gonna hear that now. I'm gonna hear about it. No,
That's
but
huge,
no, and so it just sort of, I don't know, lit me up inside as far as a way to frame things in my mind to be excited about a future that I can't define right now, is to know that whatever it is, right, it's going to be the next right thing, whether that's the next right thing for me or my family or the people in my community. Is this a speech for a pageant contestant, or what does this have? What is happening?
No, I love it. I guess like since we're on that topic, Nikki, what are you kind of hoping for in your next opportunity? And for any employer out there, company that's listening to this podcast here, what do they need to know about you? What's something unique about you that they should know about you that might be relative to just what you can do for a team, what you can do for others, because I really admire you, and I'm curious what's on your radar.
Thank you for everything, for admiring me. Sweet. Yes. And for giving me the opportunity to talk about myself in such a way. It's actually, that's something that I'm really not, I'm getting better at, is when given a platform, I tend to defer to other people and let them have the spotlight and shine a light on other folks who I guess need it more than I do. But since we're here, let's toot this horn. I think my strongest, the strongest part of the foundation that is me, right, is how broad my experiences have been. So I've been on a marketing team. I've been an SDR that reported to a marketing team, then an SDR that reported to a sales team. I've been in roles where it was my job to use social to prospect, and then roles where that was frowned on, but I used it anyway, and to success. So there's all these little pieces that I've taken from really every experience, but certainly every experience I've had in a B2B sales environment. And, all of those things add up to, a person that is skilled at, obviously, the technology that you have to be skilled at understanding and using to be successful in this situation. I'm a galvanizing force on the sales floor, not because people like me, but because, like I said, I'm generous with my energy, and I lift up the people around me. And I'm a damn good salesperson, because communication is my craft. It's what I studied in school. It's what I love. much to my kids' dismay. They hate me, always, always try to impart like little nuggets of communication excellence to them. They're like, ugh, I just asked a question. No, but yeah, I place a premium on communication and on relationships.
I love it. I love your energy. I think any organization is definitely lucky to have you. I'd be pumped up if I'd sit next to you on the sales floor, and that's all the motivation I would need instead of coffee in the morning. That's for sure.
Hey.
But like Nikki, I sense like your passion for sales development. Like you've been an SDR yourself. I know that from our previous conversations, you've sold everything from like cars to software, everything in between. Like how'd you get into sales? Like why is your passion such around like communication, sales? Like where does that stem from?
It's a 3-part question for me, right? Where does it come from is really a specific event or experience I had when I was a little girl. We lived in, I've talked about this before on LinkedIn. We lived in a housing project, or AKA the projects. And you know, it was a very diverse school. And, you know, that was something that I kind of was attuned to even as a small child. But one of the things I noticed that wasn't, you know, that didn't lift me up inside was I noticed how most of the Black women at my school, when they were speaking to people in positions of authority, a lot of time they weren't taken seriously. And it was just something as small as like regional diction, right? They sounded like they were from where they were from, and people associated negative value to that. But I had this teacher when I was in kindergarten, and she was just an excellent communicator. I would watch her speak, and the way other people, children, adults, folks 3, 4, or 5 titles above her in, you know, in employment, you know, she had command of the language in such a way that made people respect her right away. And I thought, that's what I want, you know? So it was the power that I saw behind being able to communicate well. And the way that she was actively making people's lives better with that one skill. Not that she didn't have others, but how you know, how that one just really cut through. Was just moved by it. And so I was a nerd. I was walking around like reading thesaurus and wanting to read out loud in class. I was that kid.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
so that's where it comes from.
That's awesome. How did that kind of transition to like sales development?
Yes.
Um,
So my first, that's the other question you asked was, how did I get into sales? I was a friend of mine wanted to buy a car. We go to the car lot, and there's a salesperson, and he's, you know, I think he thinks he's slick. Like he's nice enough, right? But he's kind of schmoozy, and, you know, just didn't come off very, very knowledgeable or very interested in my friend, you know, and what she wanted, right? He had an agenda which he was trying to exact, which is, you know, a lot of folks, that's the sales training that they get. So no shade. But anyway, I decided, right, you know, how do I get him to sort of break character? So I was just basically heckling this guy, this salesperson, this poor guy who's just trying to sell my friend a car. And she didn't end up buying a car at all. She walked out without a car, and I walked out with a job offer because this guy's boss had been observing the whole time, right? He kept having to like go back to his boss and saying, you know, I can't get through a friend, or friend keeps doing this, or friend keeps doing that. And, you know, so the guy who's the GM of the dealership comes up to me as we're leaving. He's like, do you want to like work here? Like, clearly, you have an aptitude. You don't mind talking to strangers, and you're kind of bold. That's kind of folks that's just the kind of girl we need. So yeah, so I took a job as a car salesperson back in, I'm going to really date myself here. God, this was in 04, 03, something like that, 04. And yeah, I kind of never looked back. And it wasn't about, I hadn't yet had a bunch of lessons that I ended up having in sales development, but that very first like sales job experience was me falling in love with using communication as a skill to make people's lives better. Right. I worked, this dealership was near an Army base, which is, you know, kind of where I grew up. And it was during a time when most of the soldiers had been deployed. And this young woman, she was about, you know, 20 maybe. this young woman, 21, and her baby in a stroller walked onto the car lot, like walked in the hot sun. This is down in Hinesville, Georgia, Hansville, if you're from there. And so this woman walks in with her baby in a stroller, and she was so hot, and she was like, I have, you know, you probably can't approve me for anything. I don't really know even what I can do here. I can't walk back home with this baby, and I'm just in need. And so in this case, honestly, she didn't need sold, right? Because she needed a car. This was, internally selling the leadership there at that dealership on like being humans and being like, look, man, let's just figure out how we can help this young lady. And that was, the first car I sold. And,
No way.
one never looks back. You feel me? This has been a tumultuous relationship with me in sales. It really has. But, I could never leave for good because of experiences like that. I'm always kind of chasing that feeling.
I love that. That's a great story. I really appreciate that.
I gave you the long version.
No, I love it. Hey, so like I love the fact that you go with your friend, you help her get a car, and you walk away with a job. Like that, there must be something to be said if you walk out of there with a job and you weren't even going there. Like how does that kind of translate with like any of the experiences that you've had, like in an interview, and like anything that you've kind of taken over the years, like as far as just like making yourself stand out, providing that value in an interview? Like any tips or feedback that you can kind of share from your experiences around like interviewing, and just like how do you really show someone the best version of yourself?
It's so funny that, and I didn't even think about this in these terms until you mentioned that, like how do we go from what I just said into these sales development questions? So that all happened around a car lot. And then fast forward 10 years to 2014 or 2015, I was working at a car dealership again. I was selling cars again for Kia, and a young man walked onto the car lot, and I sold him a car, and he was like, you're a good salesperson. You should meet my boss, Scott Leese. I work at this company called Outbound Engine.
That's
I was
right.
like, what? Yeah. So I go to this little cattle call interview, and in that they tell us, hey, if you get a call back to get this interview, know that this person, it was Scott Leese himself. He was SVP of sales at this place at the time. And they're like, you got to know your stuff, right? So go listen to this TED talk, and go listen to this podcast interview that Scott was on, and just be well read on the job and all that good stuff for your interview. So I get the interview, and I did all of that stuff, right? I was ready to do like the interview thing that folks do, but I took an extra step, and I decided to go and look at his Twitter page. And Scott Leese's Twitter, if you don't follow it, just side note, it's lit. He's a no holds barred kind of guy. So he shoots from the hip, and I like that on this platform. So it's fun. But anyway, at this time, I don't know him. I don't know what's going on. I just was trying to find some nugget of commonality, something I could just throw out there. So I was SDRing, not even knowing I was SDRing. I hadn't ever had a B2B tech sales SaaS job before at all. I just had this instinct about like, it really all boiling down to how can I connect with this human the quickest way possible. So I knew for me that would have been social. So like I said, so I go look at his Twitter. I'm just getting a sense for his personality. And then I find that he is a sports fan, right? In fact, he used to be a college athlete and then a professional athlete. So I see that he's a fan of teams I don't like. No, he's a fan of like the San Francisco Giants and a couple of other teams, and I watch a lot of ESPN anyway. So I just take all this with me. I didn't rehearse anything or write anything down. I just sort of had a sense for how I'm going to use this in this conversation. And so we're doing the whole, standard interview thing. And I don't remember exactly how it came up, but I threw out being a sports fan. And I was like, oh yeah, you're a Giants fan. It went away from those sort of standard, you're the interviewer, I'm the interviewee, you're the boss, I'm the employee type situation, and more like two humans finding a commonality, and one of them understanding how to leverage that for maybe the first time ever in my career, being conscious of, okay, that's what I'm doing. Here's how we connect the dots. And so I would encourage everybody, especially at this time. I think we talk so much about LinkedIn, because that's kind of where we are all the time, and that's where a lot of our prospects are, and that's important. But know that prospects / mentors are also on these other platforms, and it's a lot less noisy to get through to them, because they typically get so much less engagement on those platforms versus LinkedIn. So that's another little side nugget. If you're interviewing right now, yes, reach out on LinkedIn, but do retweet cool things that people who you want to work for are saying, because they will likely see that before they see your message on LinkedIn. Wow, I guess I hadn't ever, before we had this conversation, thought about just how full circle all of those things have come.
No, definitely. And I feel like it's funny because when I went to flip the script in San Francisco with Beck Holland, I remember her saying, like, I think she like said Nikki Ivey, like, I love her. Like, I don't know like how your name came up, but like she randomly said like, oh yeah, Nikki Ivey, I love her. So I know like you're definitely like a huge kind of figure in the sales development space. Like I'm curious, like in your experience, like how important is it to like get yourself out there, network with the right people as it relates to like job opportunities? Like you mentioned, like you randomly met someone who knew Scott Leese, who eventually led to like your opportunities. So obviously like there's value in like connecting and meeting people, because you never know where that will take you. Like wanted to get your take, like how important is it to like get yourself out there, regardless of like just how you feel or your perception, as it pertains to like kind of where we're in right now.
I think you have to start with a genuine desire to make friends. And I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but because the platform that we're on is LinkedIn,
Sure.
and we're taught to be about the business, what's the return, what's the result, right? Especially if you're an SDR, that's how you're taught to sort of look at LinkedIn. But when it comes to, like a fundamental element of your brand needs to be, or your reputation, however you want to think about it, needs to be how genuinely you are trying to make connections and relationships with people that go beyond what you can get from them. So put that in your heart first. If you can't, this probably isn't going to work for you. But, besides that, then it really is just about finding as many opportunities for one-to-one interaction, with folks that either share a passion with you or that you want to do business with. Like just making sure that you're taking opportunities for one-to-one interactions with those folks beyond just you DMing them, but engaging with their content, or I think sometimes even stronger is engaging with content that they've engaged with, right? It's one thing for them to post something. They may just be, maintaining their presence, or, it's for their job. But typically if they're commenting on something, then it moved them to act, right? And then to go beyond liking it down into commenting on it. So it's something that they care about or are thinking about, to strike up a dialogue with them there, read what they said and really think about it, and respond with something thoughtful, can be really powerful. And I think it's maybe not something that's talked about as much in the LinkedIn pundit guru sphere.
No, definitely. I mean, you're always commenting on my stuff and other people's stuff, so I see that you're getting around for sure.
Yeah, I am. You'd ask me a different question than that. I am just.
No, it's all good. No, seriously.
Because I want to answer the question that you asked, because I remember that it was important. Oh, that's what you asked. You were talking about Beck Holland, how important it is for SDRs to put themselves out there, which actually, funnily enough, Beck Holland herself just said the opposite on LinkedIn the other day. She was talking about how, if you're an SDR, unless you are in consulting and professional services, or you're a salesperson or marketer that sells to salespeople and marketers, that you probably shouldn't be creating content. I vehemently disagree, although I understand where she's coming from.
For sure.
But I think you have to because your future is in your hands alone. And you're going to, and I think Scott Barker said this as well, you're going to have a reputation, period, whether you're in control of it or not, right? And so that's the only question, right? Not whether or not you have a reputation, but whether or not you have any type of control over how that reputation is being shaped and perceived. And the only way to do that is to take that control. And listen, it doesn't have to be long-winded speeches like the kind I would give. It doesn't have to be, a novel of a LinkedIn post, but you should absolutely be, building and shaping your own brand there, and with the, I think, with the goal of creating two funnels, right? An employment funnel to where prospective employers can take themselves through, and awareness to considering to reaching out to the salesperson and say all of that, and where your prospects can do that as well. It is tricky. She's absolutely correct. It's tricky if you aren't a salesperson selling to sellers and or marketers. But after that, if you aren't, then it's just a matter of finding what communities and conversations your prospects are involved in, getting involved in those.
You got me pumped up though. I mean, I feel like everyone should at least try to like post content, create their own content, like unleash that like curiosity and that like creative part of your brain, and try to like inspire other people. I think everyone should give that a shot at least once.
I promise you they will not be worse than my first LinkedIn videos, which are still up there, by the way. Go look at my LinkedIn page and you will see I did a video series, very short-lived video series called Cute Commute / Theme Song Thursdays. I was out here treating it like it was YouTube, y'all. I was out here singing a song or playing a song in my car driving to work. On Theme Song Thursdays, or I would, on my lunch break, come out to my car and shoot a video, which I still kind of think would be a fun video series for me or someone to do, right? Of course, we won't be in our cars anymore because we're not commuting. But, I mean, your morning coffee with Mateo, I would watch that. I would watch that video series. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, create it because it's there's a business case for it, and because there's a network case for it, but also create it because it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I look forward to hopefully seeing one of those soon. Maybe a quarantine version. What do you think?
A quarantine version of Theme Song Thursday, Stranger Things. You know what? Speaking of like quarantine video, I think we should do a quarantine karaoke via Zoom. I know it sounds crazy. I know it does. And I know only dorks like me do karaoke.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Right? I think maybe we put this together. Y'all heard it here first. But like, look, salespeople of course we're very social, but this correlation between salespeople and music is real. So many salespeople, if obviously like table stakes, they all like are super passionate about music. And then a lot of us play music or sing or DJ. I just think it's a missed opportunity to not be sharing that with each other, especially at a time like this. So,
hey, I'm going to put that idea on the back burner. Maybe we can get some set up here in a couple weeks. Yes. I think that's a great idea. And I'll definitely look into that. But Nikki, just a couple quick questions for you before we head out here. Two quick questions here for you. First off, like what do you really look for like in your next opportunity? Like right now, where you're at right now, I'd imagine you're really prioritizing certain things in your head as it pertains to like your family, your career, your personal choices. For anyone out there that's listening, like that kind of is not sure like what they should be looking for, what's important to them. Like, what are you looking for? Like, what's like top 3 priorities or like the top boxes that you need to check before kind of like moving forward with your next opportunity?
For sure. Number 1 for me, it's that I need it to be remote. Jacksonville is not a tech hub. But I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to work with world-class organizations. And so I've been looking at, what are those companies that are already distributed teams or already global. So it makes sense for me to be able to do a sales role. I love, that's another positive that's come out of this, is people looking at sales and sales development as jobs that can be done remote, because they absolutely can, and they can be
absolutely just
as productive, if not more productive. So number one is that it be remote, because I need that independence, and I need access to those organizations. Number two, culture is really important. Again, it's another thing that I think is having a light shown on it in these times. And so, I don't want no fake family environment. I don't want, folks who aren't who they say they are in terms of, how they treat salespeople in particular. So that's the second most important thing. And I found, social, we've been talking about LinkedIn a lot, super helpful with that. Like if I mention, if I've got a connection that I see has worked at a place I want to work at, and I mention that, I can get, some insight into what the culture was like when they were there, and try and at least figure out if it's changed. So besides those two things, I guess the third thing I'm looking for is, what can I learn and who can I teach? I guess it's two things, but that's sort of the filter that every opportunity I'm looking at now has to make it through, because I'm just not at a point in my life or my career where I can afford to not be doing something challenging, something that makes me have to think and learn every minute that I'm doing it. And then, what can I teach? I view the ability to catalog and reflect on and then teach to others things that you've learned from your success and from your failure. I value that as the skill, in the highest regard, a leadership quality. And that's something that I'm always trying to, find opportunities to develop and practice. It's why I'm in the communities and building the communities that I'm building. I don't have any desire whatsoever to like tell people what to do or be a manager.
Sure.
But I've been a leader for a long time now, and just have not yet had the opportunity to practice it the way that I would like. So I'm looking for at least the opportunity in the not so long term, right, in the medium term, to be able to lead and inspire people as well.
Have no doubt in my mind you will be doing that very soon. You definitely inspire me on a daily basis, Nikki, so I appreciate you. Just one quick question before we head out, because you got me pumped up here. I feel like it might be a little while before things, get back on track here. And so I always need like a little pick me up and some motivation every once in a while to keep me going. So, as kind of the weeks progress, SDRs either, continuing to sell and struggle during this weird time, or, continue to apply to jobs and just not work out for whatever reason, because it's just not the best fit for them. What's one thing or a couple things that you would just say to keep in their head as, we kind of chug along during this unknown period, but, I have no doubt in my mind that things will clear out eventually. But, during that kind of weird time, like what are some things we should kind of keep in our heads to, keep us moving, keep us going, and yeah.
Keep in mind that you are valuable beyond your title, beyond your status of being employed or unemployed. I say these things to myself as much as I'm saying them to you. And maybe you don't struggle with that, but I know that can be difficult in times like these. So just put out of your mind any thought that, being out of work right now or having a tough time at work right now is, a referendum on you and your skills and how valuable and special you are. It's not. It's a thing. It's an event that's happening that is not permanent, and that we're all going to come out of and get through together. Feel all the feelings, and don't feel like you have to. I mean, if that's your personality type, yes, share them. But just even when you're by yourself, like, don't put pressure on yourself to not be vulnerable in these times, because that's when you're going to make the connections with other people who are going through the same thing are going to happen, and it's going to be magical, and it's going to be the thing that gets you through this. Also, go outside, go for a walk, because not like far to where other people are, but like go outside your front door and hear birds chirp.
Yeah,
And
seriously.
I'm
some UV
remember
rays.
that you right, yeah, remember that you are surrounded by beauty and filled with it too.
I love it. Nikki, thank you so much. Any employer out there, any company looking for an impressive devoted sales leader out there. She is definitely a woman. Great person all around. Super excited to see what's on her radar with some of the upcoming projects. Any SDRs or BDRs out there but want to reach Nikki directly, LinkedIn is the best avenue to reach her for sure. And we will hope to have some updates for you guys about a potential karaoke / Zoom little party, just to kind of keep spirits high. Nikki will definitely hold me accountable to that for sure. And yeah, Nikki, anything else you wanted to add, like any other areas or any things that we should kind of be on the lookout for you soon?
Yes, tweet me. It's no Nikki Ivey. So no like knowledge. KNOW Nikki Ivey. That is my Twitter and my Instagram handle. And yeah, it'll be fun. We'll tweet together. Beyond that, look out for the projects we talked about. And those are all coming in the next, well, not the next 2 weeks by the time you listen to this. It's so meta. Those will be coming out the first couple of weeks of April. But yeah, and I'm available to talk through stuff and be a friend to any salesperson who needs them, because it's widely known that salespeople are my favorite people. So
salespeople love you too. We got to make a I Heart Nikki Ivey shirt or something, head of BDRs and SDRs. Nikki, we appreciate you. SalesDevSquad, thanks for tuning in to another episode. We will catch you guys on the next one.
Bye. Thanks for letting me be on the show.
Of course.